Record. Okay,
Cool,
just
cool.
so I don't
Yeah.
forget to do that sort of thing. So
Yes.
you're getting set up for travel, is it?
Oh my God, dude. Because I had, just a little getaway for a couple of days in Vegas, which was nice. And now came back to kind of the madness of planning for the Vegas convention. But it's a weird year, man. Just things keep changing and not in a good way at the last minute. So I'm not prepared. I am not ready. But hey, make the best of it.
Yeah, that's sometimes how
Yeah.
it goes down. I mean, smaller
Yeah.
scale, but we did our summer school over here, and the right before myself and one of the other teachers had like COVID, so we had to hang around their rooms for like a week and a half, right?
Oh man.
I only had 12 hours of symptoms, so I got over it
Oh,
pretty fast. But
wow,
then
that's
it's like
great.
you need to go hang around in your room or whatever forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's at times like this where I kind of like I wouldn't mind if STLV got canceled or postponed or yeah. Yeah.
Good morning,
It
Vietnam.
All right. It's just ahead today. There we go. Okay.
Hello, Luke.
Without
Morning.
even strange video artifices.
I'll give it a sec. I'm sure it will happen.
Yeah, it's been a while since you did this one. So what we're gonna do as the intro, probably just kind of ramble about, and I'll push in whatever way it can. We're gonna skip doing the summary today because I think Luke has some plans later, so we'll just punch that in later. But
cool.
Yeah. So I guess with time in mind, we'll just go straight into it.
Have you got a year for me, Matt?
Oh geez, I was like thinking about that a few minutes ago. If it's 70 or 71.
So it looks like it was
70.
made. Yeah, but it looks the copyright on the film is both 1969 and 70. So it was released in 70 in like end of May. But yeah, I don't know if they had completed it before then and just slapped 69 on the credits or whatever. But
I'm going to go with the
release date. So
go with release. Yeah,
I'll go with the Wikipedia 1970 as I just glance at that.
Yeah.
In the year 1970, the only good human was a dead human.
That's right. Or mutants in that case. Can't forget the mutants. Lots of mutants too. Hi, this is Matt here.
This is Luke.
This is a sci-fi sanctuary. We've been to the planet of the apes. It's now time to go beneath that planet of the apes. Joining us today to go ape is from Mission Log Podcast, where they talk about lots and lots and all of the Star Trek. It's John Champion. Hello.
Man, hey, good to be here. And I love how you use go ape. That was very clever of you.
That's
very
right.
Well
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like anything you say about monkeys or apes in the context of the Apes movies could be considered ham-fisted, but
yeah, you just feel like you're aping previous works, Just monkey see, monkey do.
Nice, nicely done.
Now, for years, the only Apes movie I'd seen are the first one and this one, because we had taped them off of Channel 17, the Superstation, somewhere in the middle of the 80s. And I just watched that video until it finally, ran out and sputtered out. Actually, it's probably still sitting in my parents' place, and you could watch it if you had a VHS, but I don't. No, Luke, you just got the box set. Was this one that the first two you've gotten in a fair amount?
No.
Me.
The first one I've seen a lot because it's, an all-time masterpiece. It would be on the TV on the regular. My parents made me sit down and watch it. Even if I didn't watch it, I would have absorbed it through cultural osmosis. And it wasn't until I bought the box set of all 5 DVDs that I even saw the second one.
Oh.
Let alone the other 3.
Okay.
So yeah, I've bought the 5-set DVD in the UK, and I've now bought the 5-set Blu-ray in Japan.
Okay.
But I think last night was only my second time of watching this film.
Oh yeah, it was like my 200th time of watching it. Because as a kid, like I understand the first one's like better, but a kid, you want to see all the New York stuff and the mutants and weird songs towards the bomb.
My kid brain's the other way around. I want to see apes. and this one doesn't have enough apes.
Yeah, we're the monkeys. That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, you mean you weren't fooled by all the humans in ape masks
Oh,
that
no.
clearly they bought off the shelf?
They bought the merchandise from the first film that
For the first movie, yeah.
No, I still the ape scenes in this film I love, but it spends a little too much time. Well, it feels like they had a different bleak 70s sci-fi script that they just plugged into Planet of the Apes. So yeah.
It does
John,
feel. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask you what's your history with the film.
Yeah, I mean, I like you guys. I feel like the first movie, I guess more like the first movie is so indelible, and I saw that dozens and dozens of times growing up. And then I tried to catch up on all the original sequels and the animated series and all of that stuff. I remembered just sort of the iconic, the set design, the fabulous matte paintings, like all of that stuff really stuck with me. Seeing the image of the bomb, that or the missile, that really stuck with me. But at a certain point, the storylines all kind of got mixed up in my head when you go to all the sequels. So I honestly didn't remember as much Charlton Heston as there is in this movie.
That's what I said last night.
Yeah, like I honestly, when I rewatched it, I kept thinking, okay, I remember that they start out with the stock footage from the first, and then we move on and we meet James Franciscus's character as Brent. But then I totally did not remember that Charlton Heston comes back and plays such an important role at the end.
I remembered he was in it at the end, but I remembered it as he's just in it at the end.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, no, we spend a little quality time with him, which
there's even you see the stock footage from the first film.
Yeah.
Then you see some more shots of him like walking away on the horse.
Yeah.
But it's all like from a distance, and I assumed they were using a stunt double.
Right.
And then we actually, there are some more scenes of him close up with Nova and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed with that. And I was doubly kind of weirded out because if we are going to have so much Charlton Heston presence in this movie, from the stock footage, from even the moments where the mutants are lifting those images out of Brent's head, like there's more Charlton Heston there, and then you get all of him at the end. It makes it even stranger to cast a guy like James Franciscus in the role of Brent, because this is the weird thing about the movie. For every creative, outside the box, just mind-blowing idea that they have, it's like they double down on the thing that they need to do to sort of dumb it down for the audience. So, and I have to give them credit, because you're making this movie at a time when sequels just weren't really a thing. Studios didn't plan out a franchise the way they do now. So it's bold and weird enough that you're going to do a sequel to a movie that was as bold and weird as Planet of the Apes, and is so thoughtful as Planet of the Apes. But then when you do the sequel, who was it that said, "Ooh, no, the audience will be confused if we don't have a crashed spaceship with a guy who looks like Charlton Heston to get us through this story."
20% different.
It feels
yeah.
It feels like the film they would have made if they couldn't get Charlton Heston back, but they did get Charlton Heston back.
Yeah, and that's just what makes it so strange. And by the way, that's no slight on James Franciscus. He's great. He's really good. And dude is cut. Oh my God.
He's cut, but Charlton Heston's more stacked.
Oh, there you go. Very true. Yeah.
You get the haymaker from him. Well, let's get a little more into the actors. But first, Luke, you're going to tell us the tale of the story of Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Beep.
Okay, there's the beep. Let's get to the actors. From what I understand,
slow that down, it contained all the information. I'm like a robot.
Okay, it's efficient. It's efficient. This is where I guess they drove the truckload of money to Charlton Heston's door, but he was like, "I don't want to be in it much. I want half of my lines to be grunting, and I want to blow up the world at the end. So there can't be any more sequels," which didn't work, but it worked for him. So I guess,
Incredible. Incredible. See, and now, even though I know that there is a decline in the quality of, well, all of the Apes sequels, because this movie ends the way that it does, it makes me want to watch the other movies. You know, to say like, how much more can we get? We did just blow up the world, you know. So how much more are we going to get out of this franchise? And yet they did it.
I know Matt wants to be on actors, but I always think about the blowing up the world thing. It's the same problem that Tim Burton had when he did the remake. How do you out-ending the original Planet of the Apes? His solution, confusing bullshit. Beneath the Planet of the Apes solution, blow up the Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
I like that. And I got a little messed up on who's the narrator at the end? That actually is not in my mind. It was Heston, I think, because he does the
Armageddon one.
Yeah, the Armageddon one, but I don't.
It was like somebody doing a Charlton Heston impression, but like landing on partly an Orson Welles impression. It was something. It had gravitas. I'll give him that.
John, this name I know is going to land with you, and
yeah.
Luke's going to say who? Paul Frees.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. Yeah. Legend. Yeah, there we go.
Half the Disney ride voiceovers things, and like documentaries and stuff like that. So
yeah.
That makes sense. But I had that like transmute in my mind. What I do like is I feel like it's partly the character of Taylor, but I feel like Heston himself brings like a new level of cynicism, which is amazing because in the first film he's like laughing at his crewmates because they realize they're lost in time and stranded, and he's just like ah. And then in this movie it's like even more cynical.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how could he not be? Honestly, I mean, he's been through it. So yeah.
Now the one thing that I really was wondering is who gave him the disco suit? Because after the church ceremony, they make Brent run around in a loincloth again, but Heston's got his disco suit. So it's like, what's up with that?
Everything about the mutants raised so many more questions, like where do they get their food? Where do they get their clothes? Where do they make their masks? You know, there's a lot of industry happening with the mutants. So I guess if Charlton hasn't been there long enough, they could just be like, here, you get your own disco suit. Yeah.
But yeah, he might have, I got the impression that he turned up, they'd been like, we're worshipping the bomb, and he's just like, yeah, okay, and joined them. And he'd only recently been put in that jail for some misdemeanor.
Right.
Probably calling them bastards. That's what happened. That's sort of his go-to. So yeah, we did talk a little bit about James Franciscus, but I guess he's what do you say? He's ripped, not stacked. Okay.
He's got definitely a softer side than Heston had.
Yeah.
Which like he's not gravelly and angry in the same way.
But they make him like try to be gravelly and angry. Like when he's confronted by the mutants, that could have gone like a lot better. Like he's very much, I mean, that's a script, right? That's
yeah.
You know, he's acting what he's given, but it's like, wow, you know, this guy could probably, I don't know, he could probably like massage the situation like a little better than he is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird role because you're walking into the sequel of this just incredibly impactful movie, which again, at a time that sequels weren't really a thing, not like this, and then hired to play somebody who looks like the star of the previous film and basically go through a lot of the same beats as that first film, at least until you get to the third act. It's a weird kind of that's a punishing thing to ask an actor to do, but apparently according to IMDb he was happy to do it because he'd been playing all these like doctors and lawyers and these very like kind of buttoned up characters, and here he got to do something action where, you know, he's like half naked through most of the movie. So he was happy to do it, and he's good. I mean, clearly he never gained the star power of a guy like Charlton Heston, but he's good, you know.
Is he done? I mean, I guess I can look. I've got the IMDb open right here.
Was he in Gwangi? I think he was in Gwangi.
Oh, that would be cool because I like Gwangi.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was him in Gwangi. It's one of the monster movies he's in.
cool.
While you're checking that out, I was someone that was easily
Yeah, Valley of
replaced.
Bungie. You're right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Nice.
all right.
So he's already been on the Sci-Fi Sanctuary podcast.
Nice.
Because I remember, it's his name is so fun to say. You don't forget that.
He's also been on one
Yeah.
called Killer Fish,
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
an
That sounds
Italian,
great.
French, Brazilian horror film,
Brilliant already.
That's
and The Last Shark,
what's the
which
what's
is
the
much
one-
better in the Italian name, L'Ottimo Squalo.
Oh, there we go.
Brilliant.
What is the what's Patton Oswalt's joke? Is it the deathbed? He's got some
deathbed.
Yeah, he's got some bit about just a movie. He's like, how could that possibly be like intimidating? It's a bed. You want to go to sleep, right? But I think I brought this up when
The deathbed is the ultimate horror.
Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking a little. Oh, and I lost that thought. That's too bad. Anyway, someone that was easily replaceable here was unfortunately Roddy McDowell, who gets replaced with he's got all that monkey makeup, so who cares? Kim Hunter's still here. She gets more
Yeah.
lines too, doesn't she?
Hmm.
Yeah.
David Watson. Yeah, there we go. So
Yeah, and they did a passable job, I thought, with David Watson. I think with apparently both Kim Hunter and Charlton Heston needed a lot of cajoling to come back to the role, and then Roddy McDowell apparently was just busy. He had a schedule conflict, so he couldn't do it. Otherwise, he would have been there.
Does
and
he
of
come
course, we
back
know
for
that
the other three?
he does.
I thought so, yeah.
Mhm.
That's why it was really weird seeing him not here in this one.
Yeah.
I think because Kim Hunter and Maurice Evans were both there, they get away with replacing Roddy McDowell. You could almost not notice.
Yeah.
You get
yeah.
a whole
If
lot
all
more.
three had been replaced, you'd be like, oh, this is a cheap sequel sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that you get a lot of mileage out of Maurice Evans because he's just so good, and he's one of the most complex villains, foils that we've had in a movie like this. And then I think they did a great job with General Ursus.
Yes.
The actor's name
James Gregory.
James Gregory. There we go. And he's wonderful. I mean, he brings the gravitas and the anger, and he's fantastic. Yeah.
But yeah, I did think it's funny. Kim Hunter Azira basically gets 3 lines of lots of dialogue, 3 scenes of lots of dialogue, and that's it. That's all she's in the movie.
Yeah.
But because there were these very talky scenes at the beginning, and I put in my notes, oh, they're talking so much because she's not going to be in the rest of this movie.
Yeah.
See, that's another of the weird things about this movie. How I said at the beginning that they keep sort of going back and forth between what are we taking from the original that we want to make sure we get out in the sequel? Where are we going to just go completely bonkers and push the envelope even further? Like, how are we going to reconcile these things? So you have a lot of Kim Hunter scenes, you have a lot of Maurice Evans, Dr. Zaya scenes, and you get all of that complex, like, ooh, we're making statements about the conflict between religion and science, and the inherent racism in that we attacked in the first movie, bringing into this one. But we're getting all of that done in the first act now, like, just to sort of prove to the audience, like, look, we're still the same thoughtful, deep Planet of the Apes that you remember. Then we're going to go completely off the rails when we kind of move these characters to the side and we get out to the Forbidden Zone and get to our underground New York.
They kind of take a poop on that on the end of the movie. Did anyone read the credits?
Oh yeah, I did read the credits. Yeah,
I was like, in 1970 they have credited Don Pedro Colley as Negro. I'm like, that doesn't even matter in the movie.
Wow.
He's wearing a mask. Why? That's really the name that you're putting on him in the credits?
Well, because when I was reading the credits, first of all, I saw Victor Buono as Fat Man, and I'm like, really? Are we just? Is this the indignity visited upon Victor Buono? And then 2 lines later, like, oh no, wow, they're doubling down on the terrible, terrible credits here. So, yeah, Don Pedro Colley, I'm sorry that's how you were credited in this movie.
Because he's great in this movie. That
He's
scene
wonderful.
where he's doing the making them fight. He's fantastic. And
yeah, Yeah.
That doesn't matter. He's just the
Oh
villain
my
guy.
God. He's just another mutant. Yeah.
Well, and within the film itself, he's treated really. Both this and the first film have a black character who they treat completely as just one of the members of the group, not.
That's what makes it more wild, you
So
know.
yeah,
because-
whoever was doing the credits was not on the same page as the guys making the film.
Cool. Yeah.
It's like, oh, this character wasn't given a name. I don't know. How can the audience identify them? Fat man and Negro.
Oh, yeah, that is unfortunate.
Something we also get to see a lot more of in this movie, though, is I think we see a lot more of the ape city in this one. Because the first one, we spend most of the time in sort of the zoo, I guess we should say, and you know, he escapes and runs through it once, and that's about all we see, right? But in this one, we get to spend a little quality time in the ape city. We get to
We see the
protest,
army training camp and the council chambers and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I definitely enjoyed that, and but then when we get to New York, I'm like, the geography of this, I mean, it makes no sense in the first movie because you got like the Statue of Liberty on the Malibu coast, which we assume that the thing just rocketed across the entire nation. But then we get like it's kind of underground and it's kind of a pile of rubble, and like none of the landmarks make any sense if you've been to New York City at all. So
yeah. But then you do that wide shot of the map painting where the ape army is assembling and they see the city. Like they see this weird skyline, and I'm like, well, but no, we just had everything underground. Why would you have the skyline with sort of half emerging skyscrapers in front of you?
I mean, I guess there could be a rubble layer, and then under that is the city. But still, you could enter the skyscraper and then go down to the rubble layer. Wouldn't that be better than the?
And like nobody noticed this before, you know? I mean, the geography makes no sense, and the timeline also. I'm still. You know, they keep saying that this is 2,000 years past the contemporary time of the like 1995, I think is when it takes place, something like that, or when when the original launch happened, and they keep saying it's 2,000 years. I thought, and I'm probably mistaken here, I thought in the original movie far more than 2,000 years had passed.
So I actually watched both movies yesterday.
Did you? Okay.
Yep. No, he does say like, oh, you're 2,035 years old. It's only.
Oh, that's it.
But the original movie, it's implied that it's 2,000 years just because of that's what happens when you travel at the speed of light, which is surprisingly good science for a sci-fi movie from the 60s.
Yeah.
Whereas this film starts saying it was, oh, they went through a slip in time.
Yeah.
Starts gobbledygooking it in a way that it didn't need to be, I think.
Yeah, because this crew seemed like they knew that they were in the future, right? Or no, they were surprised that they were in the future. Whereas the original crew kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, they knew that time dilation would at least make them, make them older, make everything that they knew behind on Earth age much faster, you know. But the extent of this thing that they went through that changed the drastic, I think in the book it's something like 30,000 years or some, you know.
Well, I think in the book it's never even Earth, right?
Oh boy,
because the author was. Also, yes, something I did yesterday, something I haven't done in like a decade. I watched all the special features on my disc.
Nice. Wow. Right on. I read the book back in high school, and
I'd say a
lot of those details have
because apparently the author was really against the Statue of Liberty scene. He thought it was cheap and lame.
Oh, it shows what he knows.
Yeah.
But you know, the timeline. I mean, 2,000 years is a very short time to have that dramatic amount of evolution. To have, you know, the apes be able to speak and form a civilization, etc. But I'll give them that. And then I guess with the changing geography, the number of nuclear bombs that, you know, made New York look like Malibu. All right, you know, I guess that's what we have to believe. But yet nothing is laid out quite the way you would think it would be. That said, though, going along with the fantasy of the movie, I think those shots are gorgeous. Like those map paintings look incredible. The set pieces they built, stunning. And it's another one of those weird places of where they spent their money, because like you get this, you know, great deal more of Ape City. You get all this underground New York stuff, but then, you know, cheap Halloween store masks on about 90% of the ape characters. That's really distracting.
Yeah. Oh, my brain's going everywhere today. But well, I was gonna say, Luke, do you want to get on your monkey box? Because I guess we do have to really get into New York and the mutants, but I don't want to,
Yeah, well,
I'll give you your monkey box.
I really love Urso as like the gorilla general, and he's got his big helmet and he's giving his war speech. Right. And I'm thinking like, yeah, I want to see apes on the rampage, and our heroes are going to have to try and save the humans from this ape conquest. And then it's just, that's just not what the film ends up being about. And I remember that disappointing me the first time I see it. Now that I know what the film is, I can go into the film and be like, okay, I'm going to see all this wild stuff about these underground psychic mutants who worship a bomb and blow up the earth. Great. I love that. But when I went into it thinking, oh yeah, more apes, let's go. And then there's like the whole second act basically is apeless. Mm-hmm. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah. And they really do try and point out the gorillas as being like horribly stupid. Like, oh, we're defenseless because they're too stupid for our illusions.
I did think this
yeah.
last night. Gorillas are quite peaceful creatures. And chimpanzees genuinely fight wars in nature. So these films have got their apes backwards.
Interesting. Wow.
But the perception, right, is chimpanzees, they're just like us. They're so smart. Gorillas, big dumb beasts.
Yeah.
But gorillas are pretty peaceful for the most part. And chimpanzees will like exterminate other tribes of chimpanzees.
Wow. Well, they certainly look intimidating on the screen, the gorillas.
Yeah.
So good choice there, dramatically. Hey, maybe there's another thing that changed in that 2,000 years of evolution.
Yeah.
After the nuclear holocaust.
The other interesting thing is that in these first two films, the chimpanzees are kind of like the downtrodden lower rung of society. Like they've got the orangutans are on top, gorillas are like the military, and then chimpanzees are kind of like third-class citizens.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the sequels, I guess because the iconic characters are Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter, really concentrate on chimps. The three recent films, it's all chimps all the time. And then when we see, because even in the old, like the next three films, it shows the rise of the apes, and it's chimpanzees all the time. Whereas, it should have been orangutans and gorillas taking over the world. The
Very
chimpanzees
true.
coming later.
So it's really chimp speak, where arrest him means shoot him.
Yeah.
They come in, they're shooting everyone, right? And the gorillas. So I'm saying maybe there should be a chimpanzees. They're shooting everyone. I'm like, then finally one guy, they're like arrest him, and then they just shoot him anyway. I'm like, okay, so I guess it means the same thing in this kind of speech.
Right.
I did like the scene where you say third class citizens, which I guess is, maybe these are the rich kids really, but the scene where it's like, no, the chimps are hippies.
Yeah.
They got their peace and love posters. They get
that was literally the scene that made me think this, where it's all the chimpanzees sitting and protesting as the gorillas try and get through. And it suddenly occurred to me, like, no, this would be the other way around.
Yeah, interesting. But I like how, it's another one of those moments where this movie, like its predecessor, really it drives home to the audience that, okay, this is science fiction, but we are clearly taking on contemporary concerns. I mean, obviously, nuclear proliferation was on everybody's mind anyway, but having, the under 30 crowd being the protesters, being the hippies, and very specifically protesting what was an impending war, or a brutal attack that was coming from the guerrillas. I liked that this movie also sort of doubles down on its political message. And this is, and I'm using lowercase c conservative, lowercase l liberal, but the idea of somebody like Zaius, very much, conflicted, but still sort of in the pocket of the military, saying like, no, we just want things to be exactly as they are. And in order to protect exactly how things are, we will go to these extreme measures. Because it is that important just to protect the things that we hold near and dear. Our ideology, our vision of ourselves is so important that we have to do that. And you've got, this handful of relatively powerless people, the chimpanzees in this case, scientists, doctors like Dr. Zira, who are just much more interested in the truth with a capital T, wherever that may lead them, than just protecting a thing that somebody says needs to be protected. So I love when a movie like this can have something that is relevant today, but also very clearly marks it from the time that it was made. The other thing that very clearly marks it from the time that it was made, telephone booths in New York City.
Yeah.
So that's the other little tip off to the audience. Like, this is the future vision from the past, not now.
I think we still have a few telephone booths hanging out in Japan, like near train stations, especially.
Do you really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw an article not that long ago about how the last one was being removed from, I think it was from New York. It might have been another major city like DC or somewhere. And I was kind of surprised by that.
Hey, Luke, when's the last time you were in a telephone booth and not changing into Superman?
God, I can't even remember. I mean, I'm not so young that I haven't used a telephone booth, but I think it would have been around middle school, high school, and me and my friends making crank calls.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2004 or 5-ish for me.
Wow. And let's face it, now every time you go to a phone booth, you are obligated to turn into Superman. So
Yeah. What other chance you're gonna get?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So and getting to New York City a little deeper. I guess the thing that stuck out for me when I was growing up, we went to my parents' church, and when I was, I don't know, 8, 9, that's when I was watching this movie a lot, and the priest changed all the music in the hymnal. My dad didn't really like the new guy that much, I think, but so he just started saying like all these songs we're singing now are like hymns to the bomb. So I actually have memories in my weird childhood brain of us standing in church, like actually singing these hymns. Like if I think back to my life, I'm actually hearing what the hymns sound like in this movie, which is kind of fun.
That music is it's appropriately weird. It is so weird. It's a little off-putting, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
That's something that also did not evolve well in 2,000 years.
Because this music's a little bit of a step down from the first one. I have Jerry doing the music in this one, but it's not bad. But I several times like, oh, that almost sounds like, but yeah, with the weird hymnal music, they certainly did stand out a bit.
Right.
How about the bomb itself?
Just like a big gold bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the alpha omega thing's kind of weird. I guess that's like, yeah. Well, though, what was it? The American A bombs, they were like painting things on, I guess, weren't they?
Well, if I wanted to give the film more credit than it deserves, we could say that crediting of Fat Man was a reference to Fat Man, the bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki.
Oh, there we go. So Victor Buono was in fact playing one half of the U.S. arsenal from World War II.
Yeah, the only 2 atom bombs ever
arsenal.
dropped in anger.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess in 1970, it probably was more common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think the names would have been out by then. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the name was definitely. I'm like more people would have known it then than now. Now it's just bombs are dropped, right? They don't personalize them anymore, which is probably for the best. Let's not personalize our bombs is probably a good rule of thumb, but they did in this one. The I love the control system for it, which is like some proto Kryptonian stuff.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, it's a similar idea, not quite as elegant as what we see in the Fortress of Solitude, but very close to that. And I do like how Charlton Heston knows exactly which one to push to it. Like those things aren't labeled.
Press the big red one.
Yeah. Those things aren't labeled. They're weird crystals, and okay.
Well, that adds to my theory that he's just been joining their church for the past month.
It's good.
He's learned how to do the bombs.
Yeah, he knows the songs.
He knows the songs. He's taking communion with them. He's maybe putting a few bucks in the collection plate when it goes around. Yeah.
The song we didn't hear is like Press the green one to put the firing pin. Press the red one to launch.
Well, blow up the
That's
bomb. This
good.
bomb doesn't launch. This one just blows up the world. Which they're like, it's got cobalt casing. I'm like, what? I got cobalt case strings on my guitar. Are they gonna blow up the world?
They could. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know the ones on there won't, but
But that's, I mean, I think for the time that this was made, that's a pretty appropriate thing. That, you know, the fear of that nuclear proliferation anyway is like, okay, all it takes is for one more scientist to come up with a much more powerful bomb. That's the one that can destroy the world. That, because like it's just academic that you've got tens of thousands of nuclear warheads spread out around the world anyway. Anybody could hit a button that would make them all launch or launch at each other and, you know, make the planet uninhabitable for, well, forever and ever. So, you know, is it such a stretch for the audience in 1970 to think like, cool, and now here's the one off the assembly line that is so dangerous, that is so awful, that it will, you know, melt the atmosphere along with it, wiping out everything. I mean, I can't think of any other movie that I've seen where you end with dissolve to white and then this depressing few lines of narration, and that's it. Go home, audience. See ya. Sleep tight.
We've had a couple of destructions of Earth, Matt, haven't we?
Yeah, sure. Hitchhikers probably doesn't count though.
The movie one doesn't, know, because they put it back together again.
Oh, right. Yes. That's a different one, kind of.
Space is the Place. That is a great destruction of Earth.
Oh, yeah. About
Cracks
the same
open
time.
like a watermelon.
Yeah, it's about the same time. Do we have any other?
Oh, well, and I guess, you know, the popular one now is Don't Look Up, which was brilliant. Yeah.
And a few years ago, is there Melancholia? Is that the one where the two Lars Van Trier were two the planets colliding? When worlds collide, there's one.
Oh, when worlds collide, yeah,
there you go. There
We
you
did
go.
that. So
Nice.
it happens from time to time. You do have to blow up the world. I don't know. I do. I mean, of course, I couldn't call the ending like better than the first one, but it does have a certain audaciousness I really respect, which could just be Charlton Heston being "Get me out of here." But
the first one is bleak in a very real way, whereas this one is bleak in a like. The first time I saw it, I'm just sat there like, huh? Did they just do that? What? There's 3 more films in this box.
Yeah. But that's you know, again, that's why I think it's so cool, is just you do something completely insane because you're already up against one of the most memorable, mind-screwing endings in cinema history.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do next? All right, we're going whole hog. We destroyed humanity in the first movie off screen. Now we're going to do it again. But what I love, and the thing that I walked away from this movie that was the kind of difficult lesson that I'm trying to reconcile, is that, all right, as the human audience watching this movie, our sympathies are with Taylor and Brent. Like, the mutants are no good no matter what. The guerrilla army coming down on top of this, they're no good no matter what. So are we supposed to be rooting for the detonation of the bomb? Are we supposed to be rooting for Taylor to hit that button? Because the only good solution to this is just to wipe everybody out.
No, the hero
Right up
of this
until
movie
he
is
presses it, I thought they were trying to stop it.
What you thought? Who was trying
Right
to
up
stop
until
it?
Taylor pressed it, I thought Taylor and Brent were trying to stop the bomb going off.
Oh, but at a certain point, they looked at each other and they were just like, this is, we're just going to end it. Whoever gets to that button first, you got to push it.
That's a pretty heavy plan to make silently.
I mean,
right. Brent could have been thinking something different.
That's the ultimate. He's like, I'll distract you, you stop the bomb, right? And Taylor's like, okay, I'll blow up the bomb, sure.
Yeah. Well, whatever was going through Brent's mind, it wasn't for very long, because then we get that really gruesome shot of about 15 bullet holes in him up against the wall there. That was intense. And this movie, by the way, I'm sure, Matt, you read it in the IMDb trivia, got a G rating.
Yes.
And the thing that would have given them a PG rating is if they stuck with their original plan to have a half ape, half human baby at some point. And I don't know how that would have worked into the plot, but they're like, oh, no. That's a bridge too far. That'll give us a PG rating. Let's just stick with destroying the planet and having bloody James Franciscus splattered against the wall. And not to mention the indignities shown toward Nova. This movie has got it out for her in like a really uncomfortable way.
But, I was like, she's so traumatized with it. So it's probably for the best to put her out of her misery at this point.
I did love when she finally talked, though. That was a great moment.
Yeah, that was dramatic and earned. Yeah.
The Transformers films have tried to do that a couple of times with Bumblebee, but it doesn't feel anywhere near as earned as it does here.
Although the newer ones does kind of one up it when Caesar speaks, of course.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
there
that's different. I was going to say, no, the true protagonist of the first two films is Dr. Zaius, because he says this guy is going to destroy us, and he does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Dr. Zaius was right. He was right all along.
He's not wrong. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess we can go ahead and place this in the pantheon of the Apes films. Luke, you're still a little. You've seen all of them once now?
I have seen all of them once. Well, I've seen this one twice. I've seen the original many times.
Okay.
But the next three, I think I've only seen once, and I don't remember them very well at all. So to me, both the original 5-film series and the more recent trilogy start with a masterpiece and then have diminishing returns.
They're weird diminishing returns, though. Let's take something.
They're still
I don't
good.
know.
This film is still good.
Yeah. I would go all the way to say I like watching the 5th one, but yeah.
But it's like I like watching some pretty bad films. But the original Planet of the Apes doesn't fall into that. It's genuinely one of the best and most important films of all time. And I don't think you can say that about Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
I wonder if in a weird way this kind of is the first. Planet of the Apes is most of the way there, but this is kind of the first just full-blown dystopian 70s sci-fi.
Well, that's why I was saying it feels like if you cut the apes out and just had the underground city of mutants who worship the bomb, this could be right there on the shelf next to Soylent Green, next to Logan's Run, just next to all these bleak sci-fi from the 70s. Definitely. One of the documentaries I watched on the Blu-ray yesterday was talking about people always give the credit to Star Wars, but Planet of the Apes is the original mega merchandise sci-fi franchise.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Spock. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about Spock there. That's Star Trek. But I was thinking of Spock helmets. I was that or an Apes mask. But you get both.
Oh man, why didn't they have an Ursus helmet? That's what I need now. You take the Spock helmet, you just repackage it, new vinyl lettering, Ursus right on top.
Does it have a monkey front? I mean, a gorilla front?
It could, yeah.
I put a picture on. You probably didn't see it, Matt, on the Twitter of in the new Mario football game. You can put a helmet on Donkey Kong that is definitely a Planet of the Apes gorilla helmet. There's no way it's an accident.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I can definitely roll with that. But yeah, this one is one of those movies that's just too formative for me, I guess, to look at completely objectively, because again, age 7, 8, 9, I just kept running this slightly grainy VHS tape again from the Superstation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if I'd been like you and I'd seen them as a double bill from the start, I might be different. But because I'd seen the first one so much and then came to the second one.
Yeah. So to me, it was kind of all one story. I think I was always confused why I had to watch the first scene at the beginning of this one. I just saw
again because people just weren't used to sequels, right?
Yeah, I could have been a little slicker with my tape editing, I suppose. But
it's like when we Son of Kong, how they had to get it out within the same year because they didn't think audiences would remember the film.
Wow.
Yeah, as far as American films, is this so in the 30s, 40s, we have a lot of the like weird
The
kind of,
Universal monsters, yeah.
or these sequels that don't necessarily follow each other. Son of Kong followed King Kong, which we thought was really weird for the early 30s. Like, whoa, it directly follows. Where the Thin Man, they don't really mention the previous films much or something. A cowboy pot boiler thing. That can cowboys boil? Yeah, they boil pots. Anyway,
Sure. They boil pots of beans.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so anyway, like even if it's the same cowboy, you don't reference the other one. So
Right.
I'm trying to think of other films between this and that really do reference the previous film.
I mean, it's not quite American, but the Bonds.
Yeah, but
The Bonds would have been starting off here. But that's no, because like Blofeld comes back and stuff.
Yeah, but even then, but those stories are treated.
They're fairly
so
standalone. Yeah,
differently.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Like if you watch this movie without seeing the first one, it's going to be relatively confusing.
You could say that the Odyssey followed on from the Iliad, so sequels have been around since its dawn of time.
Well, I think what we're trying to say here, though,
I know,
is that what's important is that we haven't had until, gosh, I mean, honestly, after Star Wars, that you have planned franchises where a studio goes in and says, we're making 3 films, 2 TV series. Somebody else has got the comic book rights, the video game rights. It's not until after Star Wars that really happens.
I did wonder in this one, though, did the writers throw in that little line about, there's some sort of crack in time, because they had an inkling they could do a third one?
Oh, interesting.
If it had been, made 10 years later, I would 100% assume that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
But because it was released in 1970, I'm like, is that just a fortunate coincidence that they then used in the next one? Or did someone have an idea like, well, they're paying me for a second, I better leave in a way for them to pay me for a third?
Right.
You know what?
Smart.
You're actually getting. I don't remember what they said at the beginning of the third one, but yeah, having watched the first 2 basically as one movie for most of my childhood, that line didn't really stick with me. So I always stuck with the original time dilation thing. So then when I didn't see the third one until I was like 20 something. So then I'm like, wait a minute, how are they in like modern day America if there's time dilation? So I assume like the nuclear blast somehow propelled them backwards through time. I don't remember how they explain it, if at all, at the beginning of the third one. So
yeah,
guess we'll find out soon.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
But when you have weird, sci-fi / fantasy, it's sort of like, I don't know. It is kind of hard to say how much hard sci-fi is in Planet Apes since they're all running around in monkey suits, but
I think it's pretty hard sci-fi.
The first one, I'm sitting here thinking, well, the first one actually is pretty hard sci-fi when you get down to it.
And like they go to a lot of effort to not make it a silly monkey suit film.
Sure.
The makeup is great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something else I learned watching the documentaries. So they did a makeup test before they could get funding from the films to prove, like, we can make these apes believable and not ridiculous. And Dr. Zero was played by Nova's actress. Imagine being brought in to have this really intelligent speaking scientist role. It's like, we're not going to give you that role, but you can be a mute in a bikini if you want.
Hey, even with that though, she became iconic through it. You know?
Yeah, still it still works. I mean, the personal disappointment for sure.
And you've got to give him credit. She still wears a lot more than Charlton Heston does in these films.
Very true. Yeah.
You even get to see him buck-ass nude in the first film.
That's right. Yeah.
And I mean, with the loincloth, that's not much. So,
yeah.
But so I guess I was gonna say how much hard sci-fi remains in this. I mean, we've completely wonked out like all sense of reason of time, space, New York City's geography, things like that. Have we delved? Does that plunge us into fantasy? A bomb that actually will destroy? Well, I guess you can still call that sci-fi, but how off the rails do we
mutants, I guess, is pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's like a TOS amount of sci-fi to me.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like we were saying with the first one, like a few alterations, you could have made the first one basically into a TOS episode. They just, would have had a different ending. And the well, we've had Red Shirt or two get often lobotomized and put into the museum maybe. So
Yeah.
So still works there. The one thing with the mutants, they're all wearing masks, but they're all mutants. I guess their skin just gets infected or something.
Well, I also at first I thought, all right, they were using illusions, and then you see they're holding rubber masks, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
why do they need the masks? If they can make a giant bleeding-eyed statue of God fall on someone with their psychic powers, surely they
Right.
can touch up their skin.
Right, exactly.
Well, I guess that's where I'm falling on. They must have like infection problems because they got gloves too, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and fully covering robes. I did notice the lady that takes pills in the bath. She did not show her true face unto God when dying.
Mm.
Not when dying, but in the sanctuary scene, she did.
Oh right,
So,
right. But
yeah.
when the guy,
When they find her in the tub at the end.
Yeah, well, I'm saying when they off the guy that is making them fight psychically, he has as he's dying, he pulls off his mask. So I'm like, well,
Right.
if she's taking pills, she had way more
She had
time to do
time.
that, and she
Yeah.
didn't bother at all. So
Exactly.
I guess he was more religious, something like that.
Maybe. She would say, I'll take this mask off when I know the pills are working, and then gone. Yeah.
What inanimate object would you choose to worship?
That's
Well, I
really
mean,
good.
You've seen my shrine to Taylor Swift over here and my other shrine to Princess Peach. Do they count?
Yes, sure.
Sure, one of them.
That's hilarious. Boy, I mean, a Mac Pro. I mean, I think that's could be just as creative or destructive. So yeah.
Is it faith and obsession in that case, though?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Mjolnir.
I'm gonna take a page out of George Carlin's book and just worship the sun. I think.
That's not an inanimate
the sun.
object.
Egyptians. No, it's not inanimate. You can't choose that. It's a living being.
Matt, you worship
Yeah.
guitars.
Yeah, that
There
makes
you
sense.
go.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. I could turn my video to that corner, and it would be Okay, good point.
One day his guitars are going to end your marriage. So one day she'll find out just how much you've spent.
You sell some, you get some different ones.
You don't sell them, you just give them away.
Anyway, any final points you want to put out on the Apes?
For me or for Luke?
This is an open question.
Open question.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think this movie it's very weird. Luke, you mentioned the Bond movies earlier, and a few years ago I did this podcast series, so rewatch in order, just going through everything, and I've seen those movies so many dozens of times, but it's a different process when you're kind of forced to sit down and watch it critically, come back with notes, really give it some thought, and have a chat about it. And it amazed me how some of those movies I felt held up better than my original estimation, and how some of them simply did not hold up well, based on kind of the popular consensus about some of them. And this, by comparison, really surprised me because I loved it. So you had the perfect word, Matthew, the audacity of this movie. It just goes in so many weird directions with so much earnestness of like, we are making statements here, people. We're going to talk about religion and science and politics, and you got the youth movement, and then you've got the threat of nuclear annihilation, and you have a lot of violence thrown in. Like, they're just going all out with everything. Also faced against this incredibly iconic movie that they just made, and I'm sure shocked every studio head, like, oh, wow, so this kind of thing the audience really wants. I guess we need to figure out how to make another one. How about literally another one, another Apes movie? So while this movie is not as great as the first one, it's actually far better than I think people gave it credit for. I think Rotten Tomatoes, it's ranked at like 37%, 38%.
Oh wow, that's
like that.
Yeah,
really low. And I don't think that's accurate at all. I think you have to put it into context. You have to have seen the original. you have to think through like what are the challenges to make a sequel to something that was not planned to have a sequel. And in 1970, it's not like now where like every franchise just decides like we're just going to create another timeline and we're going to do this and we can bring these characters back from the dead. I'm like, no, movies were not made like that 50 years ago. So there's something truly great about seeing a movie like this, warts and all, and just appreciating how nuts it is. So if the original is a 10 out of 10, I think this one is easily a 7, maybe leaning toward an 8.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Just, just because they had the balls to do it,
Again, one thing that helped me is, of course, basically watching these as a complete,
duology.
Set with a duology. It's hard for me to separate this from the second one. And then much later, if I did get to the later ones, we do get kind of an uptick in at least filmmaking, probably in the third and fourth one. So,
yeah,
not quite the audacity. The third one is very, it's like, oh, now we can like use like normal sets and stuff, and that one is quite cheap. The fourth one gets a little more expansive, and the
third one basically just has 2 apes in it, right?
That's my point. That's you have the 2 apes. You just run them through like basically a thriller story. I mean, you got the budget of like Clute or something now, right? The fourth getting a little more expansive, while also borrowing like Mexico City's bizarro architecture as part of their budget, as many other films do, and see Total Recall. But the one thing that this one does for me also is just when I did get to the third and fourth, I was, oh, these are really good. I've just since I've been enjoying without quotations the second one for so long. Luke, you want to run? You got a thought you want to run before rapping? You want to rap before you run?
The only other brief thought I had was you don't often see it in films, but it's very common in video games. The protagonist of the first one will have to come back in a cameo role at the end of the second one. Because in a game, like you spend the game becoming really powerful, in the sequel, they either have to replace the character or come up with some bullshit reason why you lose all your powers.
Right.
So you very often get there's a new guy each game, but then sometimes you meet the old guy. Whereas I feel like that doesn't happen often in films. So it's kind of cool seeing it, especially because they look the same. It really is just like when you meet the Pokemon trainer from Red and Blue at the end of Gold and Silver. It's just like, oh, look, it's you, but a little bit different.
Right.
Makes me kind of do that with Luke Skywalker in the end of movies.
Kinda.
Yeah. I mean, Last Jedi kind of work. I mean, it's not much more than a cameo in there, right?
Yeah.
and Rey's quite different. So at least in that case, we're not just going 20% different, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. There you go.
Sorry, I'm the last Star Wars movies made, The Last Jedi. I'm just assuming that one there.
Yeah.
But that's one that kind of does that. I'm thinking some of the Marvel movies certainly have done that a bit. We're gonna get that at some point, I bet, when one of the actors just decides they want to like show up again for a bit. I didn't. Yeah. How's the new Thor run? Does that run anything?
It's
like
nowhere near as bad as people made out. It's not Dark World.
How much Hemsworth do we get? Is he just?
Oh, you get a lot of Hemsworth.
Okay,
so big.
No, I was sitting here wondering if they tried to play that thing with him, but apparently not.
No.
Okay. Well, end of things today. John, you want to tell them where you're at?
Sure. Find me at podcast.roddenberry.com. That's where all the shows that I do. Primarily, Mission Log is the flagship show, but there's a lot of other stuff. If you're into Star Trek or not, there's Trek Files, there's Sci-Fi 5, there's Mission Log Live, you got Fanatics, you got all kinds of stuff coming from Roddenberry Podcast. So that's where you can find me.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you can find us on Twitter at MLSFS Pod. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just search Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. Please do give us a like and subscribe and a rate and a review and all of that bollocks. And if you want to help support the podcast and keep it online, you can go to patreon.com .com/podcastio podcastius. And there you'll find links to the other podcasts me and Matt make, like Time Enough podcast, a podcast about the Twilight Zone, like Oral Hygiene, a podcast where Matt reviews whatever he feels like reviewing that day, like Luke Loves Pokemon, where we talk about a different Pokemon family every week, like the Monster Mash, where we talk about Monster Hunter monsters, or like Game Show, a game show about games, where, as Matt describes it, 4 British guys just insult each other for an hour.
Okay. So, Luke, you got your crystal switch to hit?
Hit the green 1, 2, pause the podcast. Hit the red 1, 2, end the podcast.
In one of the countless billions of galaxies in the universe lies a medium-sized podcast network. And one of its podcasts, a green and significant podcast, is now over. Sorry, I didn't think about that ahead of time. I was even scrambling to find the narration so I could do it. So
you even let me do one, and then you did an extra one on top of it.
That's not extra. That's how the movie ends.
Okay, I pressed the button and then you did the narration. Fine.
Yeah, had to end it like that.
Perfect. Okay, Luke, you said you got somewhere to go then.
Oh yeah, I've got a ticket to see Matrix Reloaded at the theater in 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Right on. Get out of here.
Have a great
Enjoy.
one. See you later.
Gentlemen, thank you for making me watch this movie again. I appreciate it. All right.
No
Take
problem.
care, guys.
Have a good one. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Be good.